Hello everyone, I am Baisakhi, your learning buddy, and today I will be trying to enhance your knowledge about a very intriguing poem of your syllabus, The Cold Within by James Patrick Kinney. Apart from explaining the poem, I would like to discuss about the literary devices of the poem. There are 6 literary devices in the poem. About the themes of the poem, there are 2 themes in the poem, and about the 6 different characters in sequence and the scenes they possessed from a very meticulously made chart paper by me especially for you. Students, I would like to describe about all the prose and poetry from your ICSE Treasure Trove book and also about Merchant of Venice. To get the details or the information about those topics, share, like and subscribe my channel and also press the bell icon in order to get the fastest notification. Before the explanation of the poem, children, I would ask you to get ready with your book and notebook and a pencil so that whatever the tough word meanings are coming, you can write down their meanings. At the same time, you can take some notes. You can write down in your notebook or you can write in your book. I am trying to explain the poem, but before that I would like to discuss about 5 important points related to the poem. The first one is about the poet James Patrick Kinney. Second one, about the poem, the origination of the poem. Third point, why is the poem called a parable? Fourth point, the themes and the summary of the poem. And the fifth point, 2 relevant poems or similar poems which are also having the same kind of theme in them. So the first point, James Patrick Kinney was born in 1923 and he was born in Ohio in Cincinnati, and he was born in a very poor Irish family, and he was a dropout from his class 10th. He could not appear for the 10th board exam because his mother was extremely ailing and he has to be by the side of his mother. That's why he was doing self-study, and his entire life he has been self-educating himself, and he has composed many poems. Second thing about this poem, The Cold Within. The Cold Within was written in the year 1960, and the poem was not published at that time. The poet has approached to different publishers, but no one was ready to publish the poem. And in the Saturday evening, he himself wrote that this poem is too controversial for the time, especially because the poem was dealing with some kind of social evils like racial prejudice. And at that time, 1960, it was very tough because 1960 is the time when this fight between the white Americans and the black Americans became very difficult. In the year 1964, the Civil Rights of the Americans came out, which described that there will be no discrimination in America on the basis of color, sex, creed and nationality. But before this time, 1964 years back, the situation was completely different. People had a lot of fight. People have a lot of discrimination on the basis of color. There were some different schools for the white Americans, for the black Americans. Different graveyards also for the white Americans and the black Americans. And the people were not ready, the white people are not ready to do any kind of compromise, or they were not ready to do any kind of privilege or any kind of facilities to the black Americans. That's why the situation was very tough, and this poem, which is dealing with the same thing of racial prejudice, it was impossible for anyone to publish the poem. Somehow the poem was published, but it was anonymously. For the first time in the year 2000, after his death, posthumously, the poem was published in the Liguorian magazine, Catholic magazine, in the year 2000. Now, why is this poem called a parable? A parable is a story, or it can be a verse also, which is moral, which is having a kind of teaching, which is didactic in nature. and which is having a message for the humankind. This poem is a parable. Unlike the fable, it is not having animal characters, it is having human characters, and the characters are suffering from some kind of problem. They are in a kind of dilemma that what to do and what not to do. Eventually, they will make kind of error, they will make some kind of mistake, and because of this mistake or because of this sin in their character, they have to perish, they have to suffer. And this poem is also dealing with the same thing. 6 different characters, none of them are impeccable, faultless. They all are having some kind of sins. They can be racial prejudice, they can be religious prejudice, they can be meanness, spite, envy, stinginess, spite, envy, revengeful mind, lack of generosity. They can be any kind of sin, but they are having some kind of sin. And they are not ready to renounce that sin. They are not ready. They are very much interested to hold on to that sin. And ultimately they will perish. They will be dead because none of them are implacable. That is, they were not ready to change themselves. Now this is about why is it called a parable, and at the end we'll learn something. Just like a parable, this poem is also having a setting which is far away from the human connection, bleak and bitter cold. This poem is also having some kind of action, that is one by one we will find out 6 people in the group, they will not give their log of wood to the dying fire, which is ultimately in need of some kind of log so that it can help the 6 people to survive. But they will not give. This is the action of the poem. And what is the result? The result is they all are dead. This is the result. So that is why this is a beautiful parable, children. And 4th point, about the summary and about the gist of the poem. Apart from that, the theme of the poem also. Now the summary is that 6 people are there in a group, which is a group of 6 different characters. None of them like each other. They are in a far away place, in a desolated place, and these 6 characters are there. These 6 characters are sitting by the side of a dying fire, a fire which is about to be extinguished very soon if any kind of fuel is not added to that. 6 characters are having 6 logs, 6 sticks in their hands. They could have easily given their stick of wood to the fire, to the dying fire, and they could have saved themselves. But they will not give the piece of log they are having in their hand, because some of them are having some different kinds of sins. The white lady was not ready to give her piece of stick because she could see that there is a black man. The priest could not give, was not ready to renounce his log of stick because he saw there is a person who is not a Christian. The rich man saw the poor man, and the poor man saw the rich man. The class prejudice came in front of them, and they were not ready to renounce their piece of stick. The black man also was there, who was having a revengeful mind, and it was a golden opportunity for him to take the revenge, and he was not ready to give his piece of wood to the last man in the group. The 6th man was an opportunist who was also not ready to renounce his log of stick because he was not having any kind of generosity or kindness in his heart, and he did nothing for anyone without any kind of profit. If he is not having profit, he won't do anything for anyone. This is the 6th man. The 6 people will perish. They will die at the end. And this is the story. Now themes of the poem. Coldness in man's heart. Now what kind of coldness is the poet talking about? The coldness here refers to the cold human feelings. They can be racial prejudice, they can be jealousy, lack of generosity, spite or hatred. It can be anything like meanness or bitterness of mind. This stinginess, these all are some kind of cold human feelings. And that is the coldness in man's heart the poet is talking about. And the second theme of the poem is holding on to sins. Now children, the warm human feelings, what comes to your mind with the warm human feelings? They are love, sympathy, care, lack of jealousy and generosity, kindness, empathy. All these are selflessness. All these are some kind of warm human qualities or good human qualities, and just the opposite, the negative human qualities or the cold human feelings I have talked about. Now these 6 characters in a group: white lady, priest, poor man, rich man, black man, and opportunist. They are not ready to change themselves. They are having this kind of sins in them. Each and everyone in the group had some kind of characteristics flaw. They had some kind of mistakes. But they are not ready to sacrifice that sin. They are not ready. They are very, very eager to stick or to very much clutch that kind of sin which they are already possessing. They are not ready to change themselves. They are implacable. And ultimately, what is the result? They are imminent death. They all will perish. They all will die. Now, the 5th poem, 2 relevant poems just like this poem. The first one is the poem If by Rudyard Kipling. This is a very famous poem. The poet Rudyard Kipling is also talking about the same thing. That is, how can we become a human being, a true human being? What are the goodness in human being and how it can flourish, how it can come out? He is saying, when someone is hating you, if you cannot hate, if you do not hate the same person who is hating you, if you can approach love for the person who is hating you, when someone is blaming you, if you can keep your cool and if you can stop believing that you are not having that kind of blame, then you are a true human being. So what the poet is trying to say? The poet is trying to say that on being hated, if you are not hating, then you are a true humankind. The same thing is applicable to these people, though they hated each other. The second poem is Human Abstract by William Blake. In the poem Human Abstract, William Blake is also talking about 4 human qualities: peace, pity, mercy and love. And the poet is also talking about cruelty. He is saying that how cruelty is coming in human mind, in human brain, and it is planting a tree in human brain, and the result of that tree is deceit or to cheat someone. And with this cruelty, all the native human feelings, human emotions are taking birth. And this poem, The Human Abstract by William Blake, is also talking about the same thing. That is, coldness in human heart and holding on to the sins. Thank you everyone.